studio stitched by Susan. It's been so long since I've been on air live. I feel like I don't know how to do it anymore to make all the pieces work together. But hello and welcome. I'm trying this morning doing this in horizontal mode. Last time I did a series of live videos, and I'm going to move the camera just a little bit so the lighting changes because I've got bright lights and they're kind of behind me. Last time I did this, a lot of people asked, why are you in vertical mode and why don't you do it in horizontal? So I am horizontal today, and you can't change it once you've gone live. So this is what we're doing today, but I do see one of the issues right now, and that is that I actually can't see your comments. So I'll come back and watch for comments and questions afterwards. Meantime, you're just gonna get me chatting today, but it is in horizontal mode, so there's that. Anyway, welcome. It's so fun to see you all here. Yeah, it has been a spell. I've been traveling the last couple of weeks. I think in the last 20 or 21 days, I was home for one 24-hour period. Crazy. And I haven't quilted in all that time, which is just really a record breaker for me. I almost always sew something pretty well every day. But I thought you might like to see, number one, this very unusual quilt that I'm loading up today. And then number two, talk just a little bit about some of the extra maintenance and care that I give my Longarm machine and frame when I'm coming back after a bit of an absence. Now, quilting is my job, so 22 or 23 day absence is a lot for me. For some of you, you may often go that long without quilting. So this will be of particular importance to you then to know some of those things. And I'll show you some of my favorite cleaning tools as well. Okay, let me show you this project that's coming up. A little bit of background on it. My friend Mickey made this quilt that is beside me here, and it's actually number 3 of a 3-quilt series. And what it is a woman in our community, Spokane, Washington, passed away, leaving 3 sons behind, and I believe they're all adults. But Mickey took on the project of making a quilt for each of them from their mom's clothing. What Mickey's doing that I've not seen before, oh look, comments are coming up now. Oh, yay! Okay, look at that. I can see comments. Shows what I didn't know about YouTube. So in that case, let me know if you like this horizontal method or if you prefer vertical. I guess it depends on what you're watching on. But here's where we are today. Okay, back to Mickey's quilts. What she's doing that is particularly unusual, I think, is both the top of the quilt and the backing are made from clothing. So what you're seeing here, and I'll hold it up a little bit because I do have a mic on, what you're seeing here is all denim, and it is actually the back, the underside of the quilt. So these 3 quilts have been quite different. One of the quilts was a bit lighter weight, a lot of light colors and lighter weight fabrics. And so the backing was white and cream for the most part, t-shirts, even laces, things like that. So they were reinforced, but that's what the backing was. Number 2 had, and this is not in the order I quilted them, but number 2 in the series had sweatshirts on the bottom, thick, even pockets. So that was a whole nother thing. And if you happen to be in my advanced membership, I actually did a lesson on that because I kind of did a long arm version of tying that quilt because I simply could not run my machine over it because of those sweatshirt, the thicknesses, and there were pockets and everything included. So a really unique finished product. So fun. Anyway, this 3rd one has denim. So it's relatively simple. It's a very lot of seams pieced backing, but it's relatively flat and smooth. And let me show you the top as well. So this, again, is 100% clothing, and it's all kind of made in strips. Can you see that? What you perhaps can see on camera, if I get close enough, is there are sequined things. There is actual knitted, like sweater things. This one right here is a sweater. Like there's a little bit of everything in here, and Mickey did such a great job of putting some type of stabilizer or reinforcement on the back of this and getting the thing to be pretty square and flat. This to me is fun. This is kind of my, I don't know, zone of genius maybe, is working with challenging quilts, and I enjoy doing this, and I'm up for the challenge of figuring out how to make this work and getting the best possible product. So anyway, that's the quilt I'm going to be loading up today. But let's get to today's true topic, which is maintenance on my machine. And I'm trying to, and I'm sorry the camera wobbles when I touch it. Let me just roll back and see if there are any questions at this point. Laura, Lisa, Kathy, Doris. Doris prefers horizontal. Maureen likes the horizontal. Good. Debbie. Interested in this topic? Good. Pat, this view is excellent. Good. Well, so far everyone's liking that view, so we'll probably stick with that for the duration. And there's going to be some more lives coming up in the next few days. But let's talk about today's topic, which is cleaning and maintaining the machine. Let me just move this quilting stuff away a little bit so I can move my machine far enough away so you can see it. And for those of you who don't know, I quilt on a Bernina Q24. And I'm working on a 12-foot frame. So this is my machine. Her name is Stella. I always name my machines, I don't know why. But chiefly our regular cleaning, if you will, at a Longarm is going to involve oiling. That's probably the most frequent, and also lint and dust removal. Those two things are things we would do every day that we're sewing, and sometimes multiple times throughout the day. So of course, those are part of the cleaning process when I come back, but I kind of take everything a little step further. So for example, with the oiling, I actually came down and oiled my machine last night and put a drop in and ran the bobbin and needle a few times to get a bit of it moving, and then I'm going to oil again this morning, and I actually haven't sewn in between. So just getting that kind of double whammy of 2 oilings in it, and I'm going to go to greater lengths in terms of my cleaning. So when I do clean the lint out of my machine and bobbin area, which is right down here, I have 2 favorite brushes. This one is a very fluffy, very, very soft, probably a makeup brush originally. Someone gave this to me, Bernina Red, which is very fun. I like the softness because lint clings to it. So when I twirl this around in the bobbin area, it kind of pulls the lint out with it, and I like that. This is just a hardware store variety paintbrush, and you can see it's all bristly and gnarly. And I kind of like the stiff bristles because I can kind of push things that are tucked in a corner and work them out. And the gnarlier this gets, the better this brush works. So I keep these 2 within arm's reach all the time. So one further step that I would take, and I do this from time to time, but for sure when I've been away for a while, is in my bobbin casing. Let's see if we can show this on camera. Okay, you see how the little spring is on the side that wraps around it? That can actually capture lint under it, and it does. That happens regularly. And what I do is take either a fine pin or a business card works and just scoot it right under that spring and run it back and forth a little bit. And almost always I will get a little ball of lint out from underneath there. That's something that if you're having any tension issues, that's one of the places that you might clean. You might not think of it in your regular routine of cleaning, but often that has an effect. And that spring directly affects the pull of your thread, the tension on your thread as it's pulling out of the bobbin. And so if there is a buildup of lint in there, it will mess with your pretty stitches. It will. So clean that out from time to time. It is a thing you want to be gentle with because that spring is fine. And like I said, it directly affects the quality of your stitching. So use a fine pin. I would not go in there with a big old corsage pin or, I don't know, the handle of a pen or something like that. That's too much. You're apt to bend the spring. So be gentle, do it delicately, but it can be really helpful to clean that out. And of course, your regular dusting of the inside of the bobbin, maybe put a little shot of compressed air in there. Make sure that's all super clean under the little spring that's inside, the backlash spring, under that too, all those places where you would look for lint. Let's see what else. And I do usually open my front gate. Your machine may be set up a little bit different, but I can open my front gate and I can pop my, in fact, I'll do it while you're watching. I can pop my the base of my machine off right here. And so I have access from the top and from the front to clean every bit of lint out. I can, turn my bobbin casing with my hand wheel, all the things, and just get that thoroughly, thoroughly clean. Another tool that I like to use is these little alcohol medical swabs. They're good for removing oil for the most part. So my bobbin casing, that's where I oil. So it will often get a bit of linty oil buildup. And so this can be helpful for taking it off. Sometimes I will literally just take a piece of paper towel and fold it in 4 so it's got a quite stiff corner, and I can wipe some of that residue off. That just builds up. And when my technician cleans my machine, he gets that crystal, sparkling clean and takes it all off. But I feel like whatever I can do between times is helpful as well. So I do try and do that. I also, one of my favorite tools is a scrap of batting. And this is what I use to dust my machine as a whole, to dust my rails. And I like to get under my machine every wheel, and I think my machine has 16, Every wheel that turns on the rails, I hold this batting against and run the machine so that it's getting that wheel a nice little wipe. Like lint and dust just go everywhere. They do. And even if you cover your machine, there's no 100% way to cover those wheels and not get dust on them. So this little batting scrap is super helpful. And if you use white, you can really see all the residue that it's picking up. And I think that's not a bad thing. I think it's probably not a bad idea actually to use the alcohol swabs from time to time on those wheels. Again, they just get some buildup on them, and it's a good way to clean them with something that is non-chemical. You don't want to use cleaning agents like Lysol or something like that. Just use these little alcohol swabs or a moist rag. What else? Oh, I know this one. This one's fun. Okay, this little guy, it's a vacuum cleaner. It was a gag gift years ago that I gave my husband. He was all into keeping his desk, you know, spotlessly clean. So it's kind of a little keyboard vacuum. And so I've kind of commandeered it now. And it's just so darn tiny, and it's got little bristles on the top of the vacuum. So I can get this into the coolest little corners, and it just plugs into my computer. It's a USB cable, so super easy to plug in. You know, it's not very powerful, but it does get into the little tiny places and is kind of fun. And then a couple of my favorite oiling tools. Actually, let me show you this one too. This is a pair of tweezers. I'll put it in front of me so you can see it. The hook-nosed tweezers that have the crooked end, this can be really helpful for getting bits of lint out of odd corners too. I've had these for years at my sewing machine and my Longarm. I use them. Okay, on to oiling. Be sure that you're using sewing machine oil, the right weight of oil for your machine. So I actually used my Bernina oil that came with my machine, and I mentioned earlier that I put a drop in last night, and I'll put a drop in again today. I also have this lovely pen, which Bernina sells, and maybe other brands do too, which I really, really like because it's got a super fine tip. Can you see that? It's basically a needle. It's a hefty needle. It's a super fine tip, and it's about 1 inch and a little bit more long, so you can get into little places. This, I hesitated over saying this because I don't want to mislead you at all, but again, when my technician serviced my machine, he was able to show me a place where the needle bar goes up and down, that it benefits from a touch of oil every now and again. So he gave me a schedule for doing that and showed me where to do it, and this little pen reaches. I would be very cautious about doing any oiling that your manual doesn't suggest, unless you know a reputable person who knows your machine and knows service work that recommends it. So I would not willy-nilly put oil everywhere. So really check with your technician or whoever services your machine. Know that you trust them, and then take their word for what things you should do. But this little pen can be a handy tool, even for any brand. Okay, that's my spiel. Let's see what you guys have got to say. Pat, this view is excellent. Kimberly's asking, is your mic working? It is working. I'm seeing my little green light going. I'm sorry it gets fainter when I go away. Anne is suggesting maybe use unwaxed floss to clean the bobbin spring. That's a great idea, Anne. So this is the bobbin spring we were talking about on the side of our bobbin casing. So you could thread a piece of unwaxed floss through there. Unwaxed being key. You don't really want a waxy residue, right? So the goal is to use cleaning products that don't leave residue. That is important. Okay, I think that's all I've got on the topic for today, but I have one other thing that I do want to tell you about. Lots of you who've been following me for a long time know that I open enrollment to my freehand quilting masterclass twice a year, and it's coming up again in October. So leading up to that, I'm going to have lots of live sessions like this where I'm talking about different machine quilting topics, and this year I'm hosting a boot camp, and that boot camp is going to run from September 29 to October 11. So the boot camp looks like this. It's a little more intensive training, and I'm calling it Stitch Confident. It's extremely practical. It's a pretty deep dive into tension and stitch formation. So often I see quilters lumping tension covering everything having to do with the stitches on their quilt, when tension is not always the only factor at play, but stitch formation. So all the factors that affect that. So there are 3 main trainings, additional supporting trainings. All of these will be available to you in the boot camp, plus my little ebook called Tension Headaches. Anyone? A little play on words there. That's kind of a reference material that will have many of the things we talk about, and kind of this checklist you can work through whenever you're having tension issues at your quilting machine or stitch formation issues. There's just nothing more frustrating to a quilter, whether at a domestic machine or at a Longarm, than sewing, doing your best work on the top, and then flipping it over and finding it's ugly underneath. Railroads, eyelashes, all the things we call it. So I really want to do a deep dive into that. This boot camp does have a fee. It is $37, but I think you'll find I'm going to give you a ton of value for those dollars. And there's lots of opportunity at every one of these trainings for you to interact, to ask questions. In addition, I'll be opening a private Facebook group. It's totally optional. If you don't love Facebook, you can still do all the trainings and get all the material. But Facebook will be this extra level of connection with me and other students. So another place where you could actually post a picture of the result you're getting, ask a question about it, and so forth. So that will be open for the duration of the boot camp too. Now, if you do want to attend that, the easiest way to do it, and listen closely, don't do it right here in this YouTube feed, right? Go into my social media, go into Facebook or Instagram, and just type the word boot camp, and you'll get a response right away. If you don't do either of those things, you can always email my buddy Erin. She's at support@stitchedbysusan.com, and just request access to the boot camp, and she'll send you the registration. So that's all on that. I'll be talking more about it in upcoming days. And of course, like I said, it opens on September 29. So there's time to think about that and think if you want to be part of that. So be watching in upcoming days for more of these live sessions. I would so appreciate a thumbs up. That gets YouTube to spread the word. And also turn on your little bell notifications so that you know when I am coming live. I try to do them around 9 or 10 a.m. Pacific time, but I don't always make it exactly at the same time depending on what life holds that day. So if you turn the notification bell on, then YouTube will let you know when I am coming live. Thanks for joining me, you guys. I'm going to do one last peek if there are any questions coming in. Debbie, I can't make the September 29th session. Will that be an issue? It won't, Debbie. All of it will be available for you to watch as many times as you want to throughout that whole period of time. Being there live is not a requirement by any means. It's just a way that you have the option to chat with me within the session. So thanks for asking that. And thanks. Looking forward to the LNU tomorrow. I didn't even mention that. In case you are new, I regularly stream the quilting of an actual project on Fridays, and I try to do it twice a month. Tomorrow is the next one coming up, and I'll be working on a whole cloth, baby-sized quilt. So 9 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow, jump back on my YouTube channel, and I will be there live working on that whole project and talking to you as I do it. It's a virtual quilting bee. So I'll see you then. Have a great day, everyone.